What's going on, and welcome to Joe's Geek Show, the video series where we talk comics. And today we're going to be talking about The Flash, issue number 757. But before we get started, if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by liking this video, hitting that subscribe button, as well as turning on notifications, and of course, clicking that share button. And with that, The Legion of Zoom, Part 1. And this book is written by Joshua Williamson with pencils by Rafa Sandoval, inks by Jordi Tarragona, and colors by Hi-Fi with letters by Steve Wands. And the story begins with Barry Allen running to various locations worldwide that had significance between him and Eobard Thawne in a determined effort to find the Reverse Flash. After turning up nothing, Barry returns to Iris's place to find Wallace and Avery sleeping on the couch, and then Barry sits down to have a chat with Iris, who tells him he can't let Thawne control him. The next day at work, Barry is given a case by Director Singh when he overhears a kid telling the police that his father didn't kill his mother. Barry takes an immediate interest in the case and discovers he's the one that collected the evidence but didn't do it properly, as he realizes it was the same night that Wally West had returned. And if you want to know more about that story point, check out the awesome DC Rebirth one-shot. Wanting to re-examine the evidence, Barry speeds back in time to the crime scene and discovers traces of the negative Speed Force, finding that Eobard Thawne was there that night as he races back toward the present and is then contacted by Director Singh, who eventually tells him that the turtle is attacking, which is followed by the mention of the street in which his apartment resides being attacked by the Trickster. As Barry races, he then hears of Captain Cold and Golden Glider attacking Star Labs and Gorilla Grodd attacking the Speed Lab. Barry quickly realizes that all of these attacks coincide with him as Barry Allen and not the Flash, as he rushes to Iris's in order to move her, Wallace, and Avery out of the city. Iris then tells him that maybe he just did what Thawne wanted him to do, and that he has to run. And for the most part, I do think that this is a good issue with some minor inconsistencies, but let's start with the positive. I kind of like the storyline going on with this kid who's wrapped up in a case that's very similar to Barry's, and that Barry actually overlooked it because Wally had returned that night. So it was fairly interesting to watch him go back and re-examine it and finding out that Eobard Thawne was involved, which now tells us that obviously it's part of his plan, and I really hope that the storyline continues to play out and it's not just kind of a throwaway case. Also, despite my earlier disappointment about this whole Flash family, aka the Legion of Zoom, I am intrigued by how Thawne decided to use all of the characters in terms of having them attack things that are associated more so with Barry Allen than the Flash. Which makes me potentially wonder, did Thawne actually tell them that the Flash was Barry Allen? Either way, it does pique my curiosity as to the final outcome of Thawne's plan. And I'm thinking that Iris was probably right in that these attacks were motivated for the sole purpose of getting Barry to freak out and move his family, basically isolating them to one location. Will they stay there? I don't know, but right now, they're grouped together. Which, if I had to guess, potentially in the next issue, as Barry is trying to stop all of like the rogues and Gorilla Grodd and stuff, that maybe Thawne's gonna pop out of the woodwork and do battle with Kid Flash, Avery, maybe even take Iris, or as I had suggested in my previous video, kill Iris. Because as we've seen throughout this particular story so far, Barry Allen and Eobard Thawne have been doing the same old song and dance for years on end. It does not matter the timeline, and that it is quite possible certain events are just doomed to repeat themselves, such as the death of Iris at the hands of Eobard Thawne. And it leaves me thinking that this might be the functionality of, say, the Tornado Twins, that they're basically being sent in to sort of distract Barry so that he doesn't see what's coming. So once again, on the surface, I do think that the story is quite interesting, and Joshua Williamson has set himself up to tell a really good overall narrative. It's just, he once again needs to pay just a little more attention to the finer details within the book itself. Which leads me into the things that I didn't really care about the story, which has to do just more with, like I said, the finer details on the technical level of everything. Because explanation has been Joshua Williamson's biggest issue with the Flash stories, and that he can set up these really cool, interesting events, but then when he needs certain things to just go away, he just makes them go away. And usually when he does bring things back up, more oftentimes than not, there will be some contradictory elements. One of those things is, where do we currently stand with the Speed Force? Because in the previous issue, when Barry had come in all Super Saiyan Gold pretty much, Wally and Avery were kind of like, guy, what you doing, You know that Pied Piper said if we push our powers too far, you're just gonna send the Speed Force completely out of whack. To which I'd say the previous storyline, The Flash Age, which was all about Paradox, really should have done that already. But within the Flash Age storyline, Barry explained to more or less the audience that the whole supercharged Speed Force was the Speed Force fixing itself. And that is what I mean about the contradictory elements in terms of the narrative. In one story, the supercharged represents the Speed Force being broken, and another story, the supercharged represents the Speed Force being fixed, and then we're in this current story where the supercharged Speed Force could send everything out of whack again. And speaking of the time travel aspect, I also find that this is probably one of the only times artistically where I don't think it's conveyed very well. Because Barry rushes back to the crime scene. I mean, it's quite apparent that he did go back in time because it was brought up that it was a cold case before. It had been some time. Rebirth was a good while ago. And of course, there was, the tape and the fresh blood on the floor, which really is a good indicator that he did go back in time, but the transition between the two scenes was relatively non-existent. In most cases in which time travel is used with the Flash, you usually get an image or a scene of him actually running through the timelines. Or I should say more so like the speed tunnel, with the lines around him, which was used when he decided to run back to the present when Captain Singh contacted him. But when the initial going back in time happened, we missed that beat, which basically left me in a spot where I had to sit there, kind of think about it for a second, and just sort of re-examine the pages and go, okay, yeah, no, we're definitely back in time. It has to be. Because the way the art conveys it makes me think that the script probably read something to the effect of Barry runs off and goes to the house in which the crime was committed, and sort of just skipped that one line there where it's like, oh no, he ran back in time. And that is the biggest struggle with especially the current Flash stories as of late, in that the surface stories I think are actually fairly good. It's just the finer details within these stories and the small technicalities are what really keeps it from being what I would call, outstanding. So if you're reading the Flash book just for pure enjoyment, you like the art, you like the general story, I think you're still gonna have a good time here. However, if you're someone that likes to look into the small details and the technicalities, you're going to find a lot of inconsistencies. And with everything together, I'm going to grade The Flash issue 757 a 7.0. So The Flash issue 757, what did you think about this book? I would love to hear your thoughts. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. And if you like this video, I'd love it if you'd smash that like button, share it with some friends, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and ring that notification bell for more comic book content. And if you're wondering what to watch next, consider one of these two videos, and don't forget to check out the other videos in this Flash Volume 5 playlist that you can check out right up here. Alright, take care, have a great day, and as always, stay geeky.